Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
So a couple of days ago, we made the very odd connection between Erika Kirk and Jeffrey Epstein. And to sum that video up in about 30 seconds, essentially back in October of 2018, Erika Kirk began working, or at least on paper, she began working for this luxurious real estate firm by the name of Corcoran Group. Now, this is the same real estate firm that is not only mentioned in the Epstein files several times, but the CEOs such as Lynn Rothschild and Pamela Lieberman, who was the CEO since the year 2000, both of those individuals were also mentioned in the Epstein files several times, which included emails of them doing business with Jeffrey Epstein after 2010 when he was a known convicted PDF file. But this also more specifically mentions Pamela Lieberman having a conversation with Jeffrey Epstein about NDAs regarding his New York City property that is infamously known to have gotten ransacked by the FBI, etc., etc. Well, Erika Kirk began working for this firm in 2018, but she began working for this firm in 2018 during a time in her life when she seemed to be doing a little bit of everything from acting. At the time, she was also pursuing a master's degree at Liberty University. She had also applied and interviewed with TPUSA by September of that year. However, something else that I found to be very interesting is that the owner of the Corcoran Group is a woman by the name of Barbara Corcoran, who just so happens to know Donald Trump. Now, that is important because obviously there's a connection between Erika Kirk, Donald Trump, because of the modeling industry. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein went into the modeling industry together. And now we know that the Corcoran real estate firm was doing business with Jeffrey Epstein even after he was a convicted PDF file. And now we know that Barbara Corcoran and Donald Trump was even on Shark Tank together.
Switching gears for a moment, you knew Donald Trump way back in his New York real estate days.
What a charmer. That was the day I was in the elevator going up to meet the Donald Trump. I was a young broker. He was already powerful. I was fearful of him, but I wanted to make him my friend.
And only because many people suspect that Turning Point USA could have been indulging in these things in the past, or maybe even still currently, would I like to include the very interesting fact that while the Corcoran Group wasn't directly found guilty or convicted for any money laundering or fraud, however, they were in business with the California-based real estate franchise called Corcoran Global Living, where a man by the name of Ronald David Johnson was convicted of fraud and money laundering for over $2 million involving fake RV parks for oil workers. So again, I want to say for the record, I'm not saying that the Corcoran Group is accused of money laundering and that Erika Kirk was indulging in that. That's not what I'm saying. But I do find it interesting that they were in business with someone that was accused of doing such a thing. And I also find it interesting because we never actually see, and there's actually no proof that Erika Kirk actually sold any properties while she was with the Corcoran Group. But maybe it's just a strange coincidence. Well, breaking news, because we're also just now finding out over the past 2 or 3 days that Erika Kirk apparently ran for office in Arizona, but she didn't just run for office. The seat that she ran for was a pretty important seat.
What I'm about to show you is 100% proof that Erika Kirk is lying to all of us and is not who she's played the part to be. She already ran for the GOP Republican committeeman position in Sutton, Arizona in 2020, 9 months before Charlie Kirk married her. She was already at Turning Point USA. She was already getting involved in all of the things that he was up to. So why is this document that I'm about to show you being hid or not discussed? Why is she running for a political committeeman position for the grand old party when she is supposedly having nothing to do with politics? She has nothing to do with the military. She has nothing to do with any of this stuff. Now, her being in charge of Turning Point makes complete sense. And quite frankly, it pisses me off. I want you to take a good, hard look at this document right here, okay? Look at it very carefully. It says, August primary election canvass. August 4th, 2020, Maricopa Elections Department. County of Maricopa, Office of the Clerk, Board of Supervisors. So Republican Precinct Committeeman, Sutton Precinct is what she ran for. So there was 7 candidates. There's a vote for 7. The Republican Precinct Committeeman in Sutton, Republican Party. So it shows times casted, undervotes, overvotes, all the names of the candidates, And then you've got Erika Lane Francvi, a write-in vote, 1 vote. The rest of them pulled 215, 204, 208, 209, 211, 194, 212. What is this, man? Are you serious? Why would you have 1 vote? And then if you look down here, you can see Sutton County, election-wide, Sutton County, Erika Lane Francvi, qualified write-in, 1 vote. So when we're looking at this write-in section of total of 1 vote, 0.07%. 1 vote out of 391 ballots cast in that contest? That is the current CEO of Turning Point USA. This is page 2,355 out of 2,387 pages of this document. No wonder it took somebody so long to find it. Thank you to Badger and my community for bringing this to my awareness. That's why the community works together. This is so outrageous. Most people have never even heard of a precinct committeeman, and that's by design because it's the most powerful position in politics. That's why nobody talks about it. Precinct committeemen are the root access of the Republican Party. They're the foundation. Every decision that flows upwards through the party hierarchy at the PC level that's it. I mean, it literally flows up from the PC level. PCs elect legislative district chairs, LD chairs, elect county chairs. County chairs elect state leadership. State leadership feeds the national committee. In Arizona and Maricopa County, 444,604 Republican ballots were cast in this same August 2020 primary. This is the single most consequential GOP apparatus in a swing state. Whoever controls the precinct committeeman network literally controls the party from the ground up. And even if you lose a PC race, just filing this right here gives you official standing with the Republican Party.
This is kind of a big deal because this isn't just a woman who seems to be dabbling in real estate, acting, modeling, school, but now we know that she was actively pursuing a career in politics as well. The biggest issue about all of this is that it's painting a bigger picture, which many of you all would not be surprised to hear by this point in time, and that is Erika Kirk, who's painted herself to be this super trad wife, seems to have always wanted the spotlight and seemed to always have wanted to do things outside of the household and outside of the way that she's framed herself. But it gets better because a couple of months ago, I dropped a video speaking about the connections between JD Vance and Erika Kirk, and I know a lot of people have suspected that there could potentially be a JD Vance, Erika Kirk ticket coming down the pipeline. That's yet to be seen. And I would highly encourage you to go and check that video out because the song that JD Vance walked out to at MFest gets super strange when you start digging into the lyrics. If you haven't seen that video, I would highly encourage you to go and check it out. Well, speaking of JD Vance, here's a little bit of information about JD Vance that I think you all will find very interesting. JD Vance is from Ohio. JD Vance has a son by the name of Vivek. Of course, the obvious reason that would be a bit weird, it's not the end of the world, but it's a bit weird because obviously because of Vivek Ramaswamy, only someone that just ran up against Trump to become president. Well, it gets a little bit less coincidental when you find out that Vivek Ramaswamy and JD Vance went to school together. They both went to Yale and got their law degree in 2013. Well, let's take it a step further. Vivek Ramaswamy is currently running for governor for the state of Ohio. Well, at one point in time, JD Vance worked at a venture capital firm called Mithril Capital Management that was co-founded by none other than Peter Thiel, which that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody because many of us have speculated that we believe that JD Vance is essentially a creation. Shout out to Whitney Webb. She's the first person I heard to say this because Peter Thiel has essentially funded just about everything that JD Vance has been a part of. But we'll get there. Because something else that's interesting about Peter Thiel is that he is from Ohio. Not to mention that Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein were not only business partners, but Peter Thiel comes up several times in the Epstein files as well, where they're speaking about lunch dates and coordinating business meetings as well. And while JD Vance was working at this venture capital firm, they invested in a company by the name of Anduril, which is a defense technology company that builds advanced military border security systems using AI or artificial intelligence, autonomous drones, sensors, and surveillance software. And here's the kicker. The very next place that they're stationed to build their next factory is Ohio. Lex Wexner, the guy who owned Victoria's Secret, the guy who signed so many of his rights over in his wealth and finances over to Jeffrey Epstein. Well, Lex Wexner is also stationed in Ohio. It's also been rumored that Lex Wexner held a private fundraising event at his house for JD Vance. You know, the same political campaign for JD Vance where Peter Thiel donated $15 million himself. And as if this couldn't get any more weird, where is the one place before Arizona that Erika Kirk was born and briefly raised? You guessed it, Ohio, during the same time that JD Vance was there. So it just makes you wonder if these people already knew each other. And to be fair, from what I can understand, Erika and her family were not in Ohio for very long. They lived in Cincinnati, Ohio for a short period of time, and then they immediately moved to Arizona, from what I understand. But nonetheless, it's just odd that all of these people are coming from Ohio. And speaking of the vice president, Mr. JD Vance has been absolutely silent and has been a ghost since the Epstein files have been released. He hasn't said anything on it. We don't know his position on it. He's not calling people out. He's not speaking on it. The man has been a ghost, which leads me to my biggest theory.
But before I share with you all that theory, I do want to just remind you that in our last live, I shared with you all this photo of the current mayor of New York, Mamdani, in a photo from when he was a kid, surrounded by all of these powerful individuals, which to me further supports the fact that a lot of these people are already connected. And I would even go as far to say selected to be in some of these powerful positions, and they're just groomed from an early age, which drives home the point of the title of this video. It's one big club and we just ain't in it.
For probably about a year now, I've been saying that my personal opinion is that Trump's role, because I'm under the belief that we probably haven't had an actual real president probably since JFK, allegedly. But I am under the belief that Trump's role, I said it then a year ago, and I'm still sticking to it now because it's playing out in a way that I would imagine it would. I've been saying for the longest that I believe Trump's role was to pretty much deteriorate and ruin the reputation of the quote-unquote Republican Party. The Democrats has already done that. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did their part. But speaking of Kamala Harris, I'm starting to believe that JD Vance could be the Kamala Harris of the Republican Party. Hear me out. I don't mean that from an intellectual perspective. Clearly, he's more intelligent and articulate and well-spoken and composed, or as far as the role that he's playing. He's all of those things compared to Kamala Harris. Absolutely. However, what I mean by that is I just wonder if he's where he is as a pawn. Maybe Vivek Ramaswamy running for president was never actually about winning. It was about familiarizing himself with the people so that he can do what it was already written in his script to do to begin with, which is run for Ohio. And I just wonder if JD Vance's role is to ride this ship along with Trump as Trump continued to just humiliate the right. And part of what makes it obvious to me that could potentially be what's happening is the whole Epstein file release to begin with. You mean to tell me it's not easy for them to just pay somebody off to just burn the files to the ground, to delete the files, to get rid of the files? Stop telling me about this right versus left, Democrat versus Republican. Stop it. Everybody will get implicated regardless of their political affiliations. So wouldn't it best benefit everybody if you just got rid of the files altogether and just moved on with life? But instead, they're choosing to release these files, and I believe this is the reason, to continue to tear this country apart so that they can bring in their new system. And I just wonder if JD Vance, similar to how Kamala Harris had to step into position once Joe Biden was no longer compatible to be president, mentally capable to do the job. I just wonder if that's the role that JD Vance is playing as Trump continues to just completely destroy his legacy, the little bit of the legacy that he already had left. But that's just my theory. We'll see what happens. Hop in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Are these things just coincidences? You know how I feel about coincidences, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm Demetrius. I go by DD. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.
Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.